Welcome to your global roundup of key privacy regulatory developments for April 2025. This month, we have 9 major updates across North and South America, 7 across Europe, and 8 from Asia and the Middle East. Let's dive in. We begin with North and South America, where momentum around children's privacy and broader data rights continues to build. On April 3rd, Bermuda issued guidance under PIPA, requiring parental consent and age verification for users under 14. On April 7th, the CPPA and New Jersey AG jointly called for a federal Privacy Law 1 that maintains state enforcement rights and AI accountability. The DOJ's final rule under Executive Order 14117 took effect April 8th, restricting sensitive data flows to countries of concern. Implementation guidance followed on April 11th, signaling immediate compliance obligations. Privacy protections for minors also made headlines. Nebraska's Age-Appropriate Design Code Bill moved to final reading on April 11th. And notably, on April 16th, a bipartisan consortium of privacy regulators was formed, with 8 U.S. states joining forces to coordinate privacy enforcement and enhance consumer protections across jurisdictions. April 21st saw Arkansas enact its Children and Teens Online Privacy Protection Act, establishing broad online privacy protections for children and teens, and Oregon advancing a bill to prohibit geolocation data sales and profiling of users under 16. The FTC finalized major amendments to the COPA rule on April 22nd, expanding protections for children's biometric and government-issued ID data and tightening consent and security requirements. Meanwhile, Montana remained active. On April 22nd, the legislature passed SB 297, strengthening its consumer privacy law, and separately advanced a bill extending privacy protections to neural data. Finally, Oklahoma and Alabama both advanced their own comprehensive privacy bills on April 23rd and 24, moving closer to becoming the next U.S. states to pass comprehensive privacy laws. Now over to Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. In Europe, regulatory clarity and enforcement took center stage. On April 2nd, the European Commission published its final report, proposing model contractual terms for B2B data sharing and standard contractual clauses for cloud computing agreements. On April 5th, the first EU adequacy decision for an international body, the European Patent Organization, was proposed. April 14th brought a double dose of developments. The EDPB adopted new guidelines on GDPR-compliant blockchain data processing, and the European Commissioner confirmed upcoming GDPR simplification for SMEs. Cross-border data flows also saw progress. On April 16th, the EU and Canada concluded their passenger name record agreement, now awaiting formal notification. And enforcement momentum surged. On April 23rd, the European Commission fined Apple €500 million and Meta €200 million for violating the Digital Markets Act, with 60 days to comply. On April 24th, Ofcom UK published draft protection of children codes, introducing new child safety standards for digital services, which are expected to take effect by July 25th. Meanwhile, in France, CNL launched a public consultation on a draft recommendation concerning multi-device consent collection, with feedback open until June 5th. Turning to the Middle East, the Saudi Data and Artificial Intelligence Authority has opened 2 public consultations under the PDPL, proposing amendments to its implementing regulations on April 27th and regarding draft rules on April 29th. To regulate commercial, professional, and non-profit data protection activities. Across Asia, the pace of the digital revolution accelerated. New Zealand enacted its Customer and Product Data Act on March 30th, creating an economy-wide data sharing framework, starting with banking. In China, the CAC issued FAQs on outbound data transfers on April 9th, and the People's Bank followed with new financial data rules on April 17th. And on April 21st, the ASEAN-Australia-New Zealand Free Trade Agreement upgrade took effect, strengthening e-commerce and data protection commitments. Meanwhile, South Korea's PIPC issued updated personal information policy writing guidelines, sharpening focus on consent, sensitive data, and behavioral profiling. Lastly, on April 28th, Malaysia had its Data Sharing Act commence. This will only affect public entities. Before we sign off, here's what to watch next. Colorado's House vote on the social media bill by May 7th. California's age-appropriate hearings this week. The U.S. Take IT Down Act nears final approval. Bermuda's Pink Sandbox closes May 11th. New U.S. state bills expanding minors' data protections. China's new personal data compliance audit requirements taking effect May 1st. And major EU consultations on blockchain and multi-device consent closing in June. That's a wrap for this month. Stay informed, stay compliant. See you next month.